No, VSL funnels are not dead. And today we're going to be talking about exactly how to fix your VSL funnel if you think that it is dead. First off, I'm Dakota. I run Ad Class. We spend $4 million a month on paid ads for info brands. We run a lot of webinars, VSLs, low ticket, high ticket funnels. And today I'm going to walk you through best practices to actually fix your VSL funnel, how to figure out why it's broken in the first place, and what levers to pull to get your ads back on track. So here in a second, I'm going to share my screen on two documents. Number one, a funnel throughput calculator, which will show you exactly where your bottleneck is in your funnel using your KPIs. And number two, an actual document that I just created walking through every single thing I would look at to fix in a VSL funnel. And we're going to run through it step by step. Now, this will work for you if you're running VSL funnels to cold traffic, warm traffic, whatever, but also it will work for webinar funnels. Basically, this will work for any sort of funnel where you have an opt-in, some video content to educate your leads, and then a CTA to book a call. You might need to change some things around if you have, some extra steps or you have fewer steps, but at the end of the day, these concepts are going to apply no matter if you're trying to teach a lead something new or reframe their belief around something, or just get your warm prospects to actually book a call with you. Let's hop into the doc and get started. Okay, so the first thing I want to start with is what we call the funnel throughput calculator. I'm actually going to give you this in the description of the video below. So if you have questions on how to use it, just drop a comment. Would love to help you. But basically, this is the baseline performance doc for how is your VSL funnel actually performing. So we have it broken out, as you can see, in kind of the main KPIs, the main throughput percentages of your funnel, and then it'll spit out on the other side what your actual metrics should look like based on those throughput percentages. So for baseline, what we're going to start with here is I'm just going to show you how to fill this out, and then I'm going to kind of talk through what you should be looking at here on the right side as well. So before we get into it too deeply, this is a standard VSL funnel. So the VSL funnel is going to look something like this: add into a landing page, into a VSL, into a booking page, into a sales call, into a purchase. Now, the booking page may include a survey built into the booking page or an application, or it may be split out into separate pages. Over here, I'm going to model it out as if it's all together in the booking page, but we'll talk a little bit about what it would look like if you split those out as well. So the very first thing you're going to want to do is fill out these metrics based on what you're seeing in your ad account right now. So I'm going to throw in some average metrics. For example, $35 CPMs. I'm going to say that our CTR, and this is just CTR for links, it's not unique CTR because we're going to be using impressions to figure the clicks and the cost per click. But this is just overall CTR. So I'm going to keep this at 1%, which is average for outbound link CTR, especially for info brands. This lead percentage is what the opt-in rate is on your landing page. So that's the landing page percentage. View content is the number or the percentage of people that make it past the VSL page. If there's a CTA button on your VSL, it's the percentage of people that actually click that and make it to the next page. The next page is usually a booking page. This percentage here is how many people actually book a call with you. This percentage here for show up is pretty obvious, how many people actually showed up to the call. And then this is the close rate on show ups. So show ups only, not total booked calls. Here we have average cash collected, LTV, and ad spend. So cash collected and LTV in some of these cases are going to be different, right? So if you sell a $7,800 program and you only collect, $4,000 up front, you put it in like this as well. And then monthly ad spend you can throw down here to kind of give yourself a big picture view. So in this case, with all these KPIs, it shakes out to look something like this. So $100,000 in ad spend, 2.8 million impressions, 28,000 clicks, 5,700 leads. Lead cost is $17.50. Of those leads, 1,100 of them go on to actually see the CTA of book a call. So the cost per content view is $87. 571 of them go on to book a call. Cost per call is $175. If show up rate is 50%, then we have 286 show ups. Cost per show up is $350. If we close 18% of them, we get 51 units, and then the CPA is $1,900. So based on that, you'd be collecting $205,000 in cash on $100,000 in spend, which would be about 2.1 ROAS. But if you know that you go on to collect the rest of the 7,800, your lifetime ROAS is going to be closer to a 4. So these are really standard metrics. You can see quickly though how these can change based on the top of funnel things, right? So one of your jobs as an advertiser is always identify the bottleneck, identify where something is going wrong, right? So in this funnel, let's just say, as an example, our show up rate was 20%. Right? Very quickly now I can see over here that show ups, I only have 114 of them. And even if I still close at 18% of the show ups, I am now negative $17,000 on the front end, 0.8 ROAS. And maybe I'm making a little bit of money on the back end, but after cost of goods sold and salaries and sales commissions and all that good stuff, Probably not. So you can quickly see how modifying any one of these variables can change things. Likewise, if CPMs are just a little bit more expensive up here and they're $50, you can see the same thing. I'm now barely profitable on the front because the ads are just more expensive, right? So I would need to fix my click-through rate in order to see better downstream results. This is the foundation of the logic that we're going to be using to kind of work through where is the bottleneck in our funnel? What is the thing that I should be fixing? And how can I actually fix it? So I'm going to jump into another doc here where we're going to actually fix these things one by one. All right, so how to fix poor performing pages at every step of the VSL funnel. So let's start at the top. The very first thing you should be looking at is the ad. So what are the symptoms of a poor performing ad? Well, you're going to see a low CTR first. So typically, if your CTR is below 1%, you're probably having an issue with the messaging of your ads or the targeting of your ads or somewhere in between. So your creative is weak, your hooks are unclear, something is not resonating. You might have a high CTR on your ads, but poor lead cost or call cost, right? This probably means that your ad is misaligned with your funnel. The promise that you're making in the ad is not really lining up with what you're saying on the landing page or in the VSL. Or if CPL or call costs are just inconsistent and they're jumping up and down month over month, or they're trending upward month over month, you probably have another issue that's ad related. What are the fixes? Let's start at the top. Number one, we want to always build our ad hooks, especially for VSL funnels, around pain, desired outcome, and curiosity. So what is the problem that your prospect is sick of? What's the version of themselves that they want to become? When you talk like this to your prospects, you're much more likely to get people who are inclined to want to solve their problems clicking. And if they believe that the thing that they're clicking for can solve their problems, you will not see the issues that you're currently seeing. So how can we do this? Well, instead of testing 10 variations of the same idea, let's test 3 to 5 unique concepts at a time. What I mean by that is different stories completely. Different angles is the way I think about it, right? So you're zooming out and you're looking at how can I actually tell this story differently? Not how can I switch the hook or switch a couple headlines or maybe, make a variation of the video, but how can I actually give a net new angle, something brand new that will resonate with my audience in a different way? You're not going to see a huge jump in CTR by redoing a hook. You're just not. What you will see is if you have a brand new angle recorded in a different way or with a different person or in a different environment, you might see a click-through rate go from 0.5% to 3% simply because of the rework of the angle. So the next thing you can do to fix the ads is lead with specificity and not just general promises. So a lot of times if you're selling like B2B or really outcome-driven products, you can really be specific about what people hope to accomplish. So an idea of this is actually getting into the numbers, and of course, use numbers you can actually back up. Don't just make stuff up. So for example, in this case, from 15 calls to 68 book calls in 30 days is a lot stronger than how to get more calls. Now, again, use factual information here. Don't make things up. Don't be one of those guys. So the next thing here is to ensure that your creative format actually matches the messaging that you're talking about. So if you're doing like a story-based angle, it should be selfie style, or it should be native UGC feeling, or maybe, interview style, testimonial style. But if it's an authority-based angle, if it's something like, you talking about how legit you are at scaling businesses, you should build that authority by actually making content that feels authority-driven. Right? So match the message and the tone with the actual format of the creative. That helps a lot. The next thing is matching the ad tone, still on tone, with the funnel tone. So if the ad feels relaxed and conversational, don't put users onto like a corporate high pressure page, right? The congruence between ad and funnel should match from an aesthetic point of view, from a mood point of view, from a tone point of view, just as much as it should on a messaging point of view. Something I've actually seen is I've audited ad accounts that have like 80% female traffic in the ad account, and then they go to a page that feels masculine. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Let's rework the page to feel feminine so that it actually is congruent with the target market, the tone, and the audience. All right, the next one is tracking. I've talked a lot about CAPI in the past. I'm not going to dig into it too much here, but if your ads aren't working, there's probably bigger things at play. If you've tested all the other stuff that I've talked about here and you still can't get them to work, you need tracking integrity, you need to be using CAPI, you need to be using pixel events, you need to be using CAPI, you need to be making sure that your match rates are high, that your event quality is high, because broken tracking ultimately is going to feed bad data, and your ads are just going to continue to be like a self-fulfilling prophecy of bad data. Okay, so basically if your CTR is less than 1%, you probably have creative or targeting issues. If it's better than 1.5%, but your CPL is still high, in other words, people are still not opting in, you probably have a funnel or congruence issue. Another thing that you should be testing here is actually optimizing deeper in funnel. So instead of just doing, optimizing for leads or opt-ins, you should be optimizing deeper funnel. So if it's a call funnel, you should be optimizing toward calls. Tell Meta the thing you want, and it will get you the thing you want. Pretty simple. All right, we're going on to number 2, which is how do we fix the landing page? So popping back over to the funnel throughput calculator, if this lead percentage is low, if it's 5%, right, as an example, and our CPMs are fine and our click-through rate is fine, but the lead percentage is 5%, we still have an unprofitable funnel because people are not opting in. We need to get the landing page percentage up. So how do we do that? Well, the symptoms of this happening, like I just said, bad opt-in rate, right? Sub 20%, sub 15%, depending on what we're asking for. We'll get into that in a second. Users might click to the page but bounce before submitting their info, right? They're just looking around. The form might feel confusing, slow, misaligned with the ad promise. Leads might opt in but don't actually engage with the next step. In other words, they might opt in but then just drop off the next page. That's still a landing page issue, probably. And so how can we fix it? Number 1, we want to lead with a clear benefit-driven headline. So how to achieve a desired outcome without whatever objection, right? So outcome, time frame, and relief. All the same stuff you're going to be talking about in the ad. This should be congruent to the ad. We should be using a sub-headline that actually builds some context. So who is this for, right? How to do thing you want to do for person who wants to do that thing. We should be removing distractions. There should not be a nav bar. There should not be extra CTAs. There should not be outbound links, right? This is one goal and one goal only. Get the opt-in. Get the information. We should be using a single CTA that says something like watch free training or get access, not just learn more. On this landing page, if you want to do extra stuff, you need to be sparing with it, okay? Almost always, if we do a below the fold test or we have more information about the brand face or we have testimonials, it's a distraction from the opt-in. I've split tested this a ton of times and almost always a simple opt-in page works better. But if you want to add stuff, you could test brand logos, testimonial snippets, like really small, still above the fold, or like as seen on sort of authority building rows. Okay, and then this one is interesting. So depending on what you collect from someone, your opt-in rate is going to vary, right? So if you're getting just email, your opt-in rate could be really high. It could be 50% plus, right? Just email is pretty frictionless. Plus, people likely will just make up emails to see what's on the other side. So keep that in mind. If you're adding in name, you might see it go down a little bit, maybe 25%. If you're adding in phone number, that's where your opt-in rate will go down a little bit more. So probably somewhere between the 10 and 20% range at scale to cold traffic. That said, if you have a setter team or you have people to outbound or text, then it makes a lot of sense to have phone number on that form, especially because it's going to help those leads actually go on to book a call, get the content that you want them to get. Okay, so we've talked about the form friction. The next thing is just keep in mind that from social media ads, 80% or more of your traffic is probably coming from mobile. So your page should be built around mobile. It should load quickly and it should be mobile optimized first. We talked a little bit about tone and visuals. Just maintaining emotional continuity between the ad and the landing page is super important. And kind of to sum all of this up, if your opt-in percentage is less than 15%, you're looking at the headline, the load time, the tone mismatch. And if it's strong, but the VSL engagement is weak, there's probably an expectation gap between the landing page and the VSL page. So don't sell something on the landing page that your VSL does not teach. So let's say we fix this, right? We get this back to 20%. Okay, cool. We're looking at a 3.6 ROAS on cash, 7.02 on lifetime revenue. But let's say that, the VSL is underperforming, right? VSL is only getting 5% of people through to the booking page. Now, once again, we're less than break even on cash and we're barely making any profit. Let's fix that. VSL problem. Usually it's a pretty complex thing to fix a VSL. So I'm going to just get into sort of like some of the stuff that I think about when fixing a VSL, but we could make a whole like 6-hour long training just on VSL another time. However, these are the main things I would think about. especially if you've already got a VSL and you just need to tweak it and make it better. So basically the symptoms of a bad VSL page: you have opt-ins, but they're not going on to book a call. Number two, you have a decent watch rate and engagement rate, perhaps, but it fluctuates over time. So maybe it started off okay and now it's low, or you've just never had the watch rate or engagement rate high. And number three, you have low CTA clicks after the VSL. So in other words, people just aren't clicking the button. They're not making it to the booking page. So some of the fixes that I would think about are really copywriting driven. So this is really thinking about what is your VSL designed to do, right? And ultimately your VSL should build trust, build authority, and sell the call more than anything, right? And so it should position and reframe your thing as the thing that the prospect needs right now in order to fix their problem. You want to open it up with a micro agreement. So micro agreement, like make them nod their head before you ever make a pitch, make them agree with you, make them feel the pain, show some empathy toward their situation, and then make a promise, right? You're going to build tension and curiosity at the end of each section. So think of this as a slippery slide. They start the VSL and they need to basically follow you all the way down the slide. There's no way off until the very end because they're constantly agreeing with what you're saying. You're building in a lot of yeses, a lot of head nods throughout the entire thing. So when you're ending sections, you're building tension and curiosity at the end of each section. You're saying things like, and that's only half the reason people fail at this, right? Oh, okay. What's the other half of the reason? People are going to keep watching to find out. Throughout the VSL, you should also be preempting objections. You should have a whole list of objections that your target persona has about your program or other programs in this space, and you should be handling them every step of the way during the VSL. One of the easiest ways to do this is actually listen to sales calls or put 100 sales calls into an AI and ask it, what are the main objections? And start handling those on the VSL. So you might be wondering if this works for you. Here's why it will. Handle the objection before they can ever make it. This one is smaller, but it is helpful, especially for certain niches that target certain younger people. But pattern breaks every 60 to 90 seconds are a really strong way to hold attention. So visuals, stories, stats, camera angles, tone shifts. You don't have to have this. I've seen good VSLs just shot on Loom, but this can help. I would say delaying the CTA until you talk about the key belief shift or until you kind of drop the really big belief shifting argument you're making in the VSL. This is a common thing that I see people do. And it helps because here's the thing. If you have a booking button popping up below your video right away when you load the VSL page, people are going to click it just to see what's next. A lot of times we want to delay that pop up knowing that we're going to have an increased call cost, but those calls are going to be higher quality. And so really quick, I'm going to jump back over here. Imagine for a second if my view content percentage was only 5%, but 80% of the people went on to book a call and 80% of the people went on to show up and 25% of the people went on to close. Now all of a sudden I can afford to have a view content percentage that's pretty low. In other words, I can afford a VSL that doesn't convert because everybody that does convert is so high intent. They're going to close, right? And that makes our numbers make a lot more sense. We're now at a 3.2 ROAS and a 6 lifetime. So this sort of delaying of the CTA, you might see call costs go way up, but you might also see all the following metrics being a lot better because of it. Next, reinforcing proof mid-video. So not just at the end, right? Layer in testimonials as many places as it makes sense to do so. Reinforce that you are the person to teach this thing, that this thing is your bread and butter, that you are the star of whatever thing you're teaching. Okay, next, this is simple, but the CTA to actually book the call should match the belief that you're talking about or the outcome you're talking about in the VSL. So if you're talking about scaling with ads, your CTA should be book your ad scaling call, right? Very simple, but a lot of people don't do this. Next up, test format variations. So this is like if you've already tested a Loom video VSL and you haven't tested direct to camera in a professional environment, test that. If you've tested, a hybrid VSL that has like, AI speech and no B-roll versus one that's all B-roll, like these are things visually that could make a big difference. Actually, here's a really small one that I just thought of that we tested a little bit ago, which is literally making the entire VSL just formatted for your phone. So 9:16 instead of 16:9 has actually crushed it for one of my brands because almost 95% of the traffic for that brand is on mobile and it looks a lot better full screen when you're holding the phone this way than when you have to turn your phone sideways. So small things like that can make a big difference. And finally, if watch time is less than 25% or engagement rate is less than 25%, there's a lot of things you can do that we just talked about. That's kind of where you need to make changes. If it's greater than 25%, but there's not a lot of people clicking, probably you have a misaligned CTA or something is broken with the CTA itself. So your VSL should reshape the beliefs of the prospect and build trust with you quickly. If you do all these things and you still don't see your VSL improving, then we probably need to talk about different ways to educate your prospects other than a VSL funnel. Maybe it's a webinar, maybe it's a challenge funnel, maybe it's just going live once a week. People hate to hear that, but you need to build trust, authority, and ultimately you need to prove yourself as an authentic source of truth for the content that you're teaching. Most of the time you can tweak a VSL to get you there, but a small percentage of the time it might require a little bit of extra content as well. All right, going on to step number 4, this is the survey and application page. So in this doc, I actually have the survey and application split out from the booking like software itself. A lot of times you'll have these together. I prefer to have them together a lot of the time now, especially with apps like iClosed, which can do kind of the survey first, and then it can conditionally route them to the calendar all in the same embed based on what they answer. I'm not affiliated with iClosed, but I do love the product. So long story short, I'm going to treat these as 2 separate things here. However, you could combine them, and a lot of people do. So let's say we fix the view content percentage. Let's say we get it up to 20%. Our VSL is crushing, getting a ton of people through. But now, for whatever reason, only 20% of people are booking the call. This is another issue, right? Where we probably want a higher book call rate, especially for people who have made it through the VSL and are highly educated. This is going to be an interesting topic because in some cases, you might have a very expensive program that you only want certain people to be able to book a call for. So maybe in your mind, 5% is a good percentage here. Totally fine. However, if you're going to put the bottleneck here in the funnel and you're only going to let certain people book, I think that's a good practice. I think it's fine. You should understand that you now need a higher show up rate. You need 75% plus, right? And you probably need a higher close rate on those show ups in order to make your numbers work. And probably you might need a higher ticket price. Let's change this to 7,800 cash collected, right? Now, even still with all of this, because you're introducing so much friction here at the book call percentage piece, your ROAS is not crazy high because, no matter what, if only 5% of people are able to book a call when they get to that page, you're going to have, a tough time converting as many people as you need to. That's kind of the dilemma that you face at the book call page. That said, if people are watching your VSL and not completing the survey, that's a problem. If the application completion percentage is less than, say, 60%, that's a problem. I'm not talking about DQ percentage, but just completion percentage there. If you're getting a lot of submissions, but the calls are unqualified or they're showing up unprepared or they're just bad leads, could also be a survey problem. And if leads are just overall confused about why they're even filling it out, that's obviously an issue. All right, so how can we fix the booking page? Number 1, let's add some context above the form itself. So something super simple like, hey, this short form helps us prepare for your call so we can give you an exact plan to do whatever thing you want to do. Next, we want to kind of shorten the form up a little bit. I see some people asking a ton of questions here. I get it, but let's try to simplify it to the 5 or 7 at most questions that you actually need to know for a prospect to book a call. But let's actually try to simplify it to maybe 5 to 7 questions, the ones that you absolutely need to know or your sales team needs to know in order to have the most information possible to qualify or disqualify the prospects who are booking with you. So 2 to 3 warm-up questions, name, email, business type, maybe 2 to 3 qualifiers. Maybe that's current revenue. Maybe it's their goals, their challenges, their budget range, depending on the program. And 1 commitment question. This can be open-ended. In fact, I would encourage you to put an open-ended question on here just so that you can kind of see their intent level. What you'll find, it's kind of crazy, is that the people who type more into open-ended questions are typically better prospects and they have a higher intent level and they close at a higher rate. So open-ended questions are cool, even if you don't do much with that data. All right, after you trim down the questions, you want at least 80% of your questions to be multiple choice. So even if you do that long form or short form answer at the end, make the rest of them multiple choice. This is going to reduce friction and increase completion rate. But also another cool thing that you can do is now you actually have the data. So after 1,000 applications, you can pull data and see, okay, great. When people answer this question like this, do they go on to close at a higher rate or a lower rate? And you can actually see how that data correlates with close rate. You can actually pull out questions, say, hey, when people say that they're making 10K a month or more, they close at a higher rate than people who say they're making 20K a month or more. That tells you some really valuable data about your targeting and how you go to market. The next one, this is simple, but add a progress bar or a step indicator or something to tell them how much information you're actually going to be asking. There's nothing worse than starting a form and having no clue how long it's going to take you to finish the form. Next, use some status-based framing to increase buy-in. So, hey, we only take a few new clients a month. So this will help us know if you're a good fit for us and if we're a good fit for you. If you take more than a few a month, don't lie, okay? Tell the truth. I know it's easy to be like, hey, we're going to cancel your call. But if you're not really going to cancel your call, don't say that. Next, add friction intentionally to control the quality. So if you have high volume but low quality, then maybe adding open-ended questions could help. But if you have low volume but high quality, remove that, right? Do what makes sense for you, if for where the bottleneck is in your funnel. You could also reframe the final step as a reward. So, hey, if you're approved for this, you're going to see the scheduling link on the next page. Or, hey, if you're a good fit, then you're going to have the opportunity to book a call with my team. This sets expectation and it motivates people to complete the form. Again, optimize for mobile first. Test it on your phone. Make sure it works on your phone. The number of times that I've looked at funnels on my phone and realized, holy cow, no one thought about what this looks like on the phone. It just doesn't make sense, honestly, because again, 90% plus of your traffic is probably mobile. So that is the survey page. I will say this, these are all small tweaks, but they are things that can help a lot with completion rate. But no matter what, hear me say this, if people are booking calls and they're qualified on paper, but they end up not closing, it's probably a VSL issue. You're probably just not positioning your program in a way that actually gives high enough intent to your audience. So hear me say that. These are all tweaks that will help on the survey page. But again, the VSL is the biggest piece. Now, if your booking page is separate from the survey page, I have some tips in here. We're going to run through them really quickly. If you're getting a lot of applications, but a few booked calls, or your booking rate is too low, or you have a high booking rate, but they're very bad quality calls, or you're getting a huge amount of no-shows, just kind of simplifying your booking page is the main fix. So keeping your headline clear and action oriented, placing the scheduler above the fold, make it easy to find, adding context or reassurance. So if you want to put a little bit of a snippet of a testimonial or something that reinforces the value of the call before they actually commit to booking it, that can help. Integrating SMS and email reminders after the call definitely will help with show rate. And we'll talk about that a little bit more on the success page here. And then status positioning. So, hey, we're only taking a few clients this month. Please only book if you're serious, right? So these are just similar things to what I just talked about, but this is in case you have the booking page separate from the survey page, like a two-step booking process. All right, finally, this is the success confirmation page, and this is really solving a bad show rate. So let's say we fixed our call percentage, but now, only 25% of our calls are going on to show. Another big issue and something that we definitely need to fix, right? So what are we gonna do to fix our show rate? First off, you want a show rate from paid cold traffic above probably 60%. I'll be the first to tell you I wish that we could get 100% show rate, but from cold traffic on ads, it is very difficult to get above 60%. I'll say that at scale across many different brands we're running right now. It's possible. And some of our best brands are closer to 80, but some of our worst brands at times dip below 60. And there's always a lot of talk about what are the sequences we should put in, or what are the things we should be doing to remind people about their call, or what are the best practices for getting people to show up to their call. And without going into a whole nother video on that, what I want to say really quickly is this. If people book a call with you because they really think you're going to solve their problem, they will show up to that call. If they book a call with you and they don't believe that you can solve their problem, they might not show up. So it's not quite as simple as just fixing automation here. Automation is a piece of it. It can help, but there's a trust factor and an intent factor in the funnel that is much more important than just fixing automation to get people to show to your call. So hear me say that. That being said, I'm going to get into the success page and what you can put on the success page to help prep people for their call better so that your show rate does go up a little bit. So what are the symptoms of a bad success page? Calls get booked, but no show rates greater than 30%, or show rates worse than 70%. Prospects show up unprepared or disengaged. Setters report that there's low excitement or weak tone at the start of their setting calls. Maybe clients forget to add calls to their calendar and they just don't show up, or people are excited, but then they cancel their call because they went and Googled you or searched Reddit for your reviews or found you on Trustpilot, and now they don't want to show up to the call anymore. So what can we do to fix that? Number one, simple headline. Hey, you're booked. Here's what happens next. Acknowledge the action and build anticipation. Number two, adding a video to the thank you page is a huge way to increase buy-in. So this should be from the founder. There have been times actually where we've tested some more unique stuff, like the sales rep making this video, and then based on who the round robin gives the lead to, actually, diverting that to a sales rep based page where they're like, hey, you're going to be chatting with me. And, maybe even the brand founder introduces that sales rep so that there's some trust and credibility. That's cool. Try it out, it might work. But for the most part, a founder-driven video on this page can work really well. You're gonna frame what's gonna happen on the call, you're gonna reaffirm that they made a smart decision booking with you, and in this video, you're gonna preview what they'll walk away with. So hey, you're gonna show up to the call, you're gonna walk away with clarity on how to get XYZ thing that you've always wanted to get. You're basically using the video to emotionally pre-frame your prospects. The other thing you wanna do on this page is actually embed a really simple add to calendar button. I don't know why more people don't do this. It's simple. G Suite can do it, Apple can do it, right? Like add the buttons, get somebody to do it for you if you don't know how to, but something that can actually get the call in the calendar for your prospect. Especially in B2B offers, that works really well because we live and die by the calendar. And then on this thank you page, there is a lot to be said for good social proof. So quick wins, screenshots, people who book calls and saw success, put those on this page. Anything that will get people excited to actually show up to the call that they just booked with you. Very important that that happens here. Also on this page, I've seen a lot of people do pre-call homework, like PDFs or, short videos, things that people can actually take with them and fill out and show up to the call with. So, a PDF of how to get the most out of your call, some homework that we need you to do before you show up to the call so that we are best prepared to help you. And then a lot of the other stuff is basically the reminder, email, sequence, all of that good stuff. Not going to cover that in this video because it's not really on the thank you page or in the funnel, but there's a lot that can be done outside of a traditional thank you page, SMS, phone call, setters calling, speed to lead in terms of like confirming calls, all of that stuff will help with show rate. Another big thing that I didn't actually put on here that I'm thinking of right now for show rate is don't let people book out too far in advance. So on your actual booking page, 3 days max, don't go 5, don't go 10. Definitely the further out people are booking, the higher the no-show rate will likely be. And then finally, position the call on this thank you page as like scarcity, right? Essentially saying, hey, if you need to reschedule, here's how that needs to look. Or please know that if you cancel your call, you will not be able to book another call with us. Or please, essentially respect my time because I'm going to be respecting yours. So again, if show rate is below 60, 70%, the video, the calendar button can help a lot. If the calls are feeling cold or low energy, it might still be a VSL issue. And it might also just be that they're researching you a little bit in between now and then. And it might also just be congruence through the funnel or offer alignment with what you're actually teaching in the VSL. So a lot of tweaks can be made, but ultimately our goal is going back to this throughput calculator and having metrics each step of the way that actually support a profitable high ticket funnel on the front end. So hear me say this, your funnel will look different from these stats. I am not the person to be like, hey, this is exactly what a VSL funnel should look like. Every offer is different. Every audience is different. Every market is different. You might be using a VSL for middle of funnel retargeting or bottom of funnel retargeting. You might be going cold traffic with a top of funnel VSL to a super wide TAM. It's going to look different for every single use case. But for people telling you that VSLs don't work, let me just be the first to say they do work. We're spending a lot of money monthly on VSLs right now in different markets, B2B, B2C, all over the place. You need to basically just figure out what math works for your brand, for your offer, and go from there. So hopefully this calculator is helpful for you. Hopefully this video has given you some tips on how to actually improve your VSL funnel. If it has, would love for you to subscribe, follow along, like this video. I'm going to be making a lot more of these. It's my goal for Q4 and into next year to be making at least one a week. So throw in the comments what you want to learn, what you want me to dig into more, and I'd love to do it. All right, peace.